Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Foundation for Philippine Progress Anniversary Appreciation Get Together, Abundance Amid Heartbreak. Roger Rigor here, and it is my honor to be your host tonight. I'm currently the Vice President of the Board of Directors of the Foundation for Philippine Progress. Tonight, we have prepared a presentation where we reflect upon the act of compassion, of courage, and dedication with the faces and energy behind the collective effort of providing for those who are in dire need in the Philippines. And before we begin, may I remind everyone of our Zoom etiquette. Kindly mute your mics. That would be greatly appreciated. Write comments in the chat mode, and we will try to respond to any questions through email after this presentation. Thank you again. So let's begin with Miss Emily Rice as she acknowledges this land of the First Nation.
Thank you, Kuya Roger. Hello and welcome, everyone. Today, we honor the Indigenous people on whose traditional and ancestral homelands the Foundation for Philippine Progress headquarters resides. The Multnomah, Kaflamet, Clackamas, Tumwater, Watlala bands of the Chinook, the Tualatin Kalapuya, and many other Indigenous nations of the Columbia River. It is important to acknowledge the ancestors of this place and to recognize that we are here because of the displacement and atrocities forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their descendants as stewards of this land from time immemorial. We appreciate and stand in solidarity with them. We also honor the many Indigenous peoples of the Philippines who have stewarded our rich and diverse islands for thousands of years. From Igorot, Aita, Lumad, and many others, we recognize that seeking a full life for every Filipino requires acknowledging their stewardship and rising in solidarity with the struggles of the Indigenous peoples in the Philippines. Thank you. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
And now, Board Member Father Jaime Case for a prayer and blessing.
How do we pray, O Lord, when we are so far from your perfect kingdom, when so many of the people we love are suffering, when the struggles of the innocent outweigh anything we can imagine? We ask on behalf of all of them, brothers and sisters far away, but in our hearts present today. And we wish for them abundance, hearts that are being healed, bodies being made whole, and for your love to shine forth from all our efforts, that your name may be glorified and your people may be served. In God's name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Father Jaime. Tonight's Abundance Amid the Heartbreak is the Foundation's sincere expression of gratitude and an acknowledgement to a community in action that we strongly feel are on the right path in facing the challenges of the times, both here and especially over where our marginalized folks in the Philippines are still scraping a living to survive. The Foundation is run by these exceptional group of guys. Let me introduce them to you. I, Kalalo, and Jeline Abinoja, Foundation Project Coordinators. Ron Antonio, Foundation Marketing and Communications Director. Edwin Guevara, UX Web Designer. And of course, our Roselia De Leon, the Executive Director. And there, the energy and the faces behind the foundation, ladies and gentlemen. These are the guys who have been doing the kind of legwork that puts into motion the true meaning of the Bayanihan spirit. And to detail all these further, we bring you the foundation's official video.
The Philippines, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, Lumad, Aita, workers, students, farmers, mothers, fathers, grandchildren, nurses, teachers, doctors, 7,000 islands without enough water, typhoon prone, vast and rich lands, but the people are hungry. So we've partnered with organizations in the Philippines, nonprofits, hospitals, relief organizations, to launch the Foundation for Philippine Progress, to partner with you for a united, whole, rich Philippines, for a full life for every Filipino.
The directors of the board of the foundation come from a diverse representation of the community. And the board of directors president, Dr. Alma Trinidad, a Portland State University professor and a staunch advocate in social justice education, will now introduce the current board of the foundation.
Thank you, Kuya Roger. Kumusta and aloha, everyone. Maramang salamat po, Diyos ti Agina, for being here tonight. Naimbag nga rabi mo, siyak ni Dr. Alma Wansisuk Trinidad, naraksatak ta adda kami ditoy. Good evening. I'm so happy that we are all gathered here tonight, even in these spaces of Zoom and virtual remote gathering. As much as we need you all to push our collective work forward, my colleagues and kapamilya in this organization also play a role in visioning its direction. With deep service and commitment, as this work is purely volunteer work for now, I have the great pleasure of introducing my esteemed fellow board members. I'd like now to start with Jaime Case. Could you switch the slide? Thank you. Also known as Pade or Father or Reverend Jaime, he is a retired chief pastor of an Episcopal church. Jaime went to high school in Baguio during the martial law. Jaime's almost 3 decades of work in the faith-based sector, advocating for immigrants and refugees and pushing for social justice. We embrace his talents and his strengths now that he's part of our team. Thank you, Father Jaime, for being here. Next up, we have Annalyn Sebastian, otherwise known as Annie. Born in Urdaneta, Philippines, Annie arrived to the United States as a toddler, as her father was recruited to work as a mechanical engineer. Her father was reunited. Her family was reunited here and settled in San Francisco. Her daughter, Dr. Adrienne Sebastian, a naturopathic doctor here based in Portland, inspires her to be involved in multiple organizations for Filipinos. Annie's recent work has helped fundraise for a more recent medical mission to the Philippines And she's always been involved, mainly through the health industry and the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and advocating for athletics. We hope that we will embrace her talents here in this space. Thank you, Manang Annie, for being here. Emily Rice, our treasure, our beautiful, wise treasure. Emily was born in Baguio, and her family immigrated here to Portland, Oregon in the late 1970s. Her parents were both born and raised in the Philippines. Her maternal side of the family is of Ikalahan, Kalanguya, from the mountain barangay of Umugan in Nueve Vizcaya, northern Luzon. Her dad is white and a son of German-American missionaries in Umangan. His first language is Ilocano. Nevertheless, they both passed on that wisdom and tradition at a very young age, the love for the motherland, the love for the Philippines. As she got older, she wanted to find ways to serve our community. And she served in several local Filipino boards. And now she's our treasurer, plugging away our numbers and making sure that we're in line in regards to that. Her day job is in information technology, specifically as an IT senior manager at the Port of Portland. Thank you, Emily, for serving and being part of our board. Next up, we have Trisha Faye Elizarde Miller, our board secretary. Trisha was born in the Philippines, raised in Alaska, and now settled here in Portland. Trisha is currently in graduate school studying mental health, counseling, dance, and movement therapy. It is through this work that she truly believes this vision of a full life for every Filipino. And it is through that work too that she hopes to inspire others in being part of that change. She believes that supporting health and wellness of our kababayans is crucial in realizing this dream. And Trisha is also an entrepreneur. She's a movement yoga instructor, primarily serving our communities of color here in Portland. Next up, we have Rogelio Rigor, our board vice chairperson. Otherwise known for me, Kapsat Roger, Kuya Roger. His parents are from the Ilocos region, father from Abra and mother from Ilocos Norte. He grew up in San Juan, Metro Manila, along with 8 other siblings. His parents and siblings were educated at the University of Philippines, and he came to Seattle at the height of the 1986 People's Power movement that ousted the Marcoses. He is now a retired math and science teacher. He served 30 plus years in the Seattle Public School, but not to mention, you probably also know him as part of the legendary Filipino disco band VST and Company that became popular in the 70s. So Kuya Manong Roger, Kuya Kapsat Roger, has also been actively engaged as a teacher, bridging the arts and the culture. He teaches Tagalog on the side to up and coming young professionals. And, you know, I hope that it's such for him to be in this space as our elder is also another important part. So I really admire that. For me, I'm Dr. Alma Trinidad. My day job is a professor at Portland State University in the School of Social Work. I've been here now for more than a decade. I have 2 children, one in middle school and another in elementary. And I was born and raised on the island of Molokai. Both my parents and my ancestors are from Pawai, Ilocos Norte. Both my grandfathers and both my mom and dad sides were cicadas, immigrant workers in the sugar and the pineapple industries. So they migrated to Hawaii. And for me, I've been involved with a lot of Filipino organizations back in Hawaii, in Seattle, where I spent most of my time earning that PhD, and now here, where I teach and do research around social justice, community building, and youth organizing. And I also care about the social well-being of our communities. And this organization, this foundation, is so much close to my heart. Although I serve in other boards, this one helps bridge that love, that mahal, and that ayat for the motherland. Last but not least, our fierce leader, Rosel De Leon, who serves as an ex-official to the board. She's our fierce executive director. And she moved here to the United States when she was 18, and she spent more than half of her life here. And if you got to know her, she's a major mover and shaker in spaces here, particularly in education, where she did work for PSU, but now she's doing a lot of work here for our foundation. I took the time to share our roots and our routes to our involvement in the Filipino community, to not only draw upon commonalities, but the strengths of our collective histories, histories as well, and genealogies, and the deep connection to the motherland, the Philippines. We live in the diaspora, and we often yearn to find ways to connect, to foster, and build across ocean and land. And thank you for being with us for the last 2 years. And I don't know about you, but this past year, we had multiple global pandemics, from COVID to the climate change. It has revealed such explicit disparities and gaps related to health, education, and human rights among our Filipino communities, here and there in the motherland. And the ongoing threats of our communities have definitely fueled an increased desire and commitment to elevating our voices, our Filipino voices and community. I don't know about you, though. I also have observed unyielding strength despite all of these catastrophes, strengths of coming together. I've observed overcoming of our communities, overcoming of strategies. And yet we have a lot of work to be doing together. So being in the diaspora, we who live in the United States also have a responsibility to not only become aware of the conditions, but to deeply care and to mahal and to ayat about the issues related to the livelihood of our community, our Filipino communities, because we are strongly linked together. And I hope that we can continue to partake in action, how that may look like individually. And it is our hope that you all will continue to be there with us collectively, so that way we can hopefully fulfill that vision of a full life for every Filipino. Salamat po, Diyos ti Agina.
Thank you, Dr. Trinidad. With that, FPP's Communication Director, Ron Antonio, will provide us the Foundation's 2-year report. Ron?
Cool, thank you for the introduction, Kuya Roger. It's good to see a lot of you on here. Uncle Rome, Tiernan, Mom and Dad. Thank you, all of you, friends and family, for joining us today. I'd like to start off with a quote from our national hero. And it reads, "Filipinos don't realize that victory is the child of struggle, that joy blossoms from suffering, and redemption is a product of sacrifice." The great Dr. Jose Rizal reminds us of a reality that is still present today in the Philippines. A reality that we are a product of. A reality that pushed us to America to look for new opportunities. A reality that still calls us back home. It's the heartbreaking realization that our country is rich and abundant in natural resources, yet the vast majority of its citizens are still suffering from extreme poverty and lack of resources, which is why our country has often been described as a beggar sitting on a mountain of gold. Our beloved motherland, the Philippines. Dr. Jose Rizal reminds us that we are the children of a generation of struggle, but that joy can still bloom amid all the suffering, and that what we sacrifice every day can lead us into redemption. Since the official launch of the Foundation for Philippine Progress in October of 2018, we have experienced 2 years and 3 months of struggle, suffering, and sacrifice. But with your help, we have also experienced months of victory, joy, and redemption. In the past 2 years, our country has been struck by 6 major typhoons, 3 devastating earthquakes, and 1 volcanic eruption that unleashed just before the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, affecting hundreds and thousands of Filipino families altogether. In response, your donations have inspired medical missions, typhoon relief efforts, and food assistance programs. In November of 2018, we launched our first medical mission in Northern Samar that served 811 patients, provided 147 volunteers, and conducted 76 surgeries, in which 32 were major cases. At the start of the new year, we were able to provide relief to 139 beneficiaries in Bicol in the wake of Typhoon Usman. That following summer, we conducted 2 more medical missions in Smoky Mountain with 100 participants, and a week later in Baseco, Manila, growing to 300 participants. During the holidays of 2019, after Typhoon Tisoy struck Leyte in eastern Samar in the Visayas region, we provided 2,027 children with hot meals and 358 families with 5 kilos of rice. We continued to raise funds in January of 2020 for Typhoon Ursula relief and to help launch another medical mission in February. In March, Mount Taal suddenly erupted. Most of you continued to respond and raise funds for the foundation. We were able to support 3,885 families who lost their homes and were displaced. A month later, the spread of COVID-19 made everything difficult, especially when 3 more typhoons landed by the end of the year. Typhoon Ambo in July, Roli in November, and Ulysses in December. But we still tried our best to fundraise. Despite the difficulties, by the end of 2020, we were able to provide support to 1,244 more families from 2 municipalities in 7 barangays. We learned that it only takes less than $20 to provide 200 food packs. To be exact, $19.58, or 980 pesos, to provide 10 kilos of rice, 5 cans of tuna, 1/2 kilo of brown sugar, 100 grams of coffee, 1/2 kilo of mongo, or lentils, and 500 milliliters of cooking oil. We have been fortunate enough to partner up with organizations on the ground in the Philippines who are dedicated and have been recognized by the local government and supported by other international entities for their consistent humanitarian work since the 1980s. Organizations such as the Council for Health and Development, or CHD, who received 40% of our contributions. The Citizens Disaster Response Center Foundation Incorporated, or the CDRC, who received 32% of the foundations. Our partners continue to serve in the most far-flung communities, reaching the poorest of the poor. As quoted in our 2-year annual report, the towns our partners are focusing on are among the top 10 poorest and hardest to reach in the Philippines. I started volunteering for the Foundation for Philippine Progress just last year. I was inspired by a story that was shared by our executive director, Rosel De Leon, about our trip back to the Philippines in 2013. It was about the children who survived Typhoon Haiyan, internationally known as Yolanda, the deadliest storm to ever touch the earth. She said she witnessed these kids playing on a fallen utility pole. She noted the abundance of smiles and laughter, in contrast with the aftermath of the calamity that surrounded them. Fallen trees, live power lines, bodies, and debris. She asked them why they were all so happy, especially after losing so many of their friends and playmates to the storm. They told her they were happy because their friends didn't have to suffer anymore. Happy because their friends didn't have to starve. They were children of a community full of hope, suffocating in poverty, who looked up at the night sky, believing that the moon was a loaf of bread, and that the stars were grains of rice that would someday fall from the heavens to feed them. Abundance amid heartbreak. How many more generations will have to suffer and wait until our limitless skies provides for them? How many more generations will have to struggle? How many more generations until we realize that we can become that sky? That the loaf of bread could be our organizations working together with the light of generosity provided by our donors? And how much longer must we wait until we realize that it is absolutely possible to achieve a full life for every Filipino? All it really takes is your decisiveness to become that light. Thank you all for listening to this report. Up next is a video that encapsulates our work from the last 2 years.
Hi, my name is Rosala De Leon, Executive Director with the Foundation for Philippine Progress. The foundation has taught me that a full life is a life of purpose and a life of service to the people. And not just service to the people, but solidarity with them as well. And what do I mean with this? Solidarity means being one with those who we serve, living with them, facing their struggles alongside them, and struggling with them, linking and raising our individual acts to the larger picture of advocating for a better future, for real change, and for progress. Thank you for supporting our work. Maraming salamat po.
Good day, everyone. This is Roger Rigor, Vice President of the Foundation for Philippine Progress Board of Directors. The word pakikipagkapwa means extending one's means to others. In these uncertain times of the pandemic, compassionate volunteers delivering generous donations to the most vulnerable who remain waiting, most of the times precariously for certain help, can only be described in one word: heroic. The Foundation for Philippine Progress continues to strive towards this collective effort of helping those who struggle to survive or to simply lead a simple, decent life. On behalf of the Foundation for Philippine Progress, we thank all our supporters, our donors, our volunteers, and all our kababayans. The Bayanihan spirit of pakikipagkapwa lives on. No question. Maraming salamat po.
Hello, my name is Ronald Antonio, and I am the Volunteer Marketing Director for the Foundation for Philippine Progress. I just want to say happy 2nd anniversary to all of us who have been contributing to the foundation. Thank you to all of you who have been lending us your support for the last 2 years in helping us provide relief efforts to the Philippines. And I am looking forward to working with all of you in supporting the Philippines in the years to come. Thank you again, and happy 2nd anniversary.
Hi everyone, Aikalalo here. I'm a volunteer project coordinator with the Foundation for Philippine Progress. I'd like to thank our family and friends, our volunteers and staff, and our donors for all your hard work and supporting us throughout the years. I'd also like to thank those who joined us throughout the Philippines is in the Heart series last summer. It was an inspiring series that highlighted our culture, our history, and our fighting spirit in times of hardship. Working with our Partners for Progress in the Philippines, the series helped raise funds to support communities impacted by the pandemic, the typhoons, and the Mount Taal volcanic eruption. Many blessings to all, and I look forward to the day we all can be together. Happy 2-year anniversary, everyone.
My name is Lorna Velasco, Velasco Arts, wanting to just wish the Foundation for Philippine Progress a 2-year anniversary. Thank you so much for your ongoing work and raising funding and awareness for the rural communities of the Philippines. I learned about you in 2019 at the annual gala, and I participated in the Carlos Bulosan webinar series that really highlights Philippine culture and resiliency. Happy 2 years.
Magandang hapon, friends and donors from the Foundation for Philippine Progress in the USA. I am Minette Aguisanda Jerusalem, Executive Director of the latest Center for Development. In behalf of the PO of Barangay Kugon in Basay, Western Samar, maraming salamat. Anon masisiring naton? Salamat Foundation for Philippine Progress!
Sa mga anak ko na datingan sila dito nung nakarang araw, nagpasalamat ako na sa ilang tulong na medical mission dito sa Smoky Mountain. Ako ba si Perlita, naghingi sana sa inyo na magkaroon tumingitin at babalik kayo dito. Nagpasalamat po kami na sana marami pa po kayong matulungan. Salamat po.
Nagpapasalamat po kami sa ginawa ninyong medical mission. Marami pong salamat. Nawa po maulit-ulit yon sa bagat biyaya ng Panginoon. Naway pagpalain po kayo ng Panginoon. Maraming salamat.
The Philippines, as we all know, is a vibrant country, but it is in the midst of some of the most challenging circumstances any nation faces. The vast island country, the tropical storms, earthquakes, as well as the growing pains of a rapidly evolving country means that there's a lot of stress on the ground. And your willingness to help provide humanitarian assistance, being able to bring people together, to help children, to help families, to be there in a time of need is remarkable. And it's an example for all Americans in terms of our ability to make a difference, because you're making a difference. Thank you very much for your special efforts.
In the Foundation's continuing effort to extend needed help to the Philippines, it is crucial that we provide our supporters and donors a quick and reliable feedback on where their generous donations are being put to use. Ms. Minette Aguisanda Jerusalem is the current director of the latest Center for Development. She's also the chairperson of the Center for Disaster Relief Network in the Philippines. From her own words, from the muddy mountain trails of the Visayas, I've been doing my tasks for the past 40 years, serving the poor and vulnerable. I started when I was 19 in 1980. Until today, at 60 years old, no regrets, living a life that matters. The Foundation is fortunate to have such dedication, so our very own, straight from the Philippines, Ate Minette Aguisanda Jerusalem.
Hi, magandang umaga from the latest Center for Development. I am speaking here in my office in Palo, Leyte. So I would like to give a very warm congratulations to the Foundation for Philippine Environment on its 2nd year anniversary. So to the board, to the staff, to the volunteers, donors, partners, and all our kababayans, maraming salamat for organizing and sustaining this very important foundation in the USA. So my keynote speech is sharing to you all about partnership, the importance of partnership in helping our less fortunate kababayans, especially in the poor and far-flung communities of the Philippines. Yes, so next slide, please. Before I start, I would like to share with you a little background about our organization. So we in the latest Center for Development are members of a national network called the Citizens Disaster Response Network. We are a national network composed of 17 NGOs. So we are present in all the 17 Philippine regions. Next slide, please. So as you can see in the slide, the map of the Philippines. So our member NGOs are present from northern Luzon down to the southern part of Mindanao. So we in the latest Center for Development operate in Samar Leyte, Eastern Visayas of the Philippines. Most of us, like LCDE, have been in operation since 1988, since the late 80s. So we're more than 30 years in the service of the poor and vulnerable in our country. Next slide, please. So we are the latest Center for Development operating in Eastern Visayas in the Samar Leyte provinces. We are an NGO involved in disaster management, and our development strategy is community-based disaster management, like the other CDRN members. Next, please. So as LCDE, we've been around for more than 3 decades. We actively partner with the Philippine government, with the agencies in addressing poverty. So proof of this are the plaques of recognition that we have received, citations from the government. To the left is the Gawad Kalasag Award, given to the most outstanding NGO in the Philippines in terms of disaster management and humanitarian assistance. And the next slide, it was given by a private sector organization. It's called the Gawad Bayani ng Kalikasan, to an NGO and an individual, myself, who is in the forefront of defending the environment in the Philippines. To the rightmost corner is an international award given by CARE Germany to me as a climate heroine in 2017. And the last slide on the lower right is with the director of the Department of Social Welfare in the Philippines and the secretary at that time, Dinky Soliman, during President Noynoy Aquino's time. So we actively engage and partner with the Philippine government agencies. Next slide, please. This slide shows the statistics of poverty in our region in Eastern Visayas. So most typhoons which visit the Philippines, unfortunately, they always pass most often through Samar and Leyte provinces. This aggravates the condition of poverty of a population that's already poor before the typhoons. And most in our surveys, most families here do not even make an income of $500 in a year. Adding up to that are the pests damaging crops and the armed conflict raging in the countrysides and the urban areas of our region, and also in other regions as well. So the slides to the right shows the damages brought about by Typhoon Yolanda, Typhoon Haiyan, international name, in November 2013. The picture on the lower right slide shows what happened to our main headquarters here in Palo, Leyte, here where I am now. That was how we were, totally damaged. We couldn't save anything except our lives. But we rose up and we were able to serve 23,000 families in just 4 months after the typhoon. Of course, with the support and help of our donors, both local and international. So we rose up from the ruins of Yolanda, not only physically, but emotionally and psychologically as well, stronger and more ready to serve. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes, so in May 2020, as was shared earlier, Typhoon Ambo hit hard on communities in Samar, already very poor. So the towns of Hipapad is a very far-flung municipality. San Policarpio, Arteche, which are also far-flung, in eastern Samar, and Lapinig town in northern Samar were the hardest hit. 95% of the coconuts were damaged, according to the government's Department of Agriculture. And it takes 7 years before a coconut can be productive again, a coconut tree. So majority of the affected population really depend on coconuts for their income. So you can really imagine the impact of the typhoon and the floods that it brought to the many communities in the affected areas. Next slide, please. So this picture is us doing distribution to Typhoon Ambo affected communities in far-flung Hipapad town. So as you can see, the background, our partnership is reflected in the tarpaulin. So it's very important of the value of working through partners. Why? Because we are able to reach a large portion of the affected population. The partnership of the Foundation for Philippine Progress and LCDE is based on mutual trust, respect, and shared vision. And I would like to say that Foundation for Philippine Progress was the first on the ground, in this case in Typhoon Ambo, in these far-flung areas. Well, because that's also the value of working through a local partner like us, because we prioritize the hard hit and those farthest from government and the private sector assistance. So yes, so we were really going to the mountains and serving the affected population. Next slide, please. Yes. So the Foundation for Philippine Progress has aided LCDE in food distribution for emergency response and seed distribution as part of our early recovery programs. Together, we were able to help at least 1,000 families, meaning at least 6,215 individuals from these hard-hit areas. The computation is because the average Filipino family is around 6 to 7 household members. Yes, so we were able to reach that in just a month. Yes, after the typhoon. Next slide, please. So yes, and salamat again, Foundation for Philippine Progress, because in 2020, in December 2020, we were able to make a breakthrough by launching food distribution in hard-hit Catanduanes provinces in the Bicol region, our neighbor region, northern part of Eastern Visayas. This was the first time that LCDE did a response in another region. This Bicol region, along with other Luzon regions, were hard hit last year by Typhoon Ulysses and Typhoon Rolly. And the Bicol region is one of the poorest, top 5 like us in Eastern Visayas, top 5 according to the government, poorest region. The typhoons made landfall in Bicol, in Catanduanes. So we were able to bring our aid through our local partner, Tabi Bicol. It's also a member of CDRN. And we were able to distribute food packs to more than 1,200 families in 7 barangays in the 2 most affected municipalities. These barangays were never reached by any international NGO. Just a few kilos of rice from the Philippine government, from DSWD. So it really made an impact because our food packs were complete. And of course, bringing the names of our donors, most importantly, the Foundation for Philippine Progress, us in LCDE, and other small local donors. So salamat for making this possible, being able to launch an inter-regional emergency response. It's the first time we did that because mostly we respond only in our region. Next slide, please. And another thing is the Foundation for Philippine Progress has helped us in socio-economic programs for poor communities, not only for emergency relief. So this picture was taken late last year in November, I think, we were able to help a farmers cooperative in the repair of their rice mill. So they need major repairs. I think about $900 to be able to buy a new battery and important parts that were broken for the rice mill that needed replacement. So this rice mill in Basay Town in Western Samar is run collectively by the farmers organization. It offers chipping milling fees for the barangay and the neighboring barangays. And one achievement also is that the members can have extra income from the net profit that the rice mill makes every 3 or 4 months. So it's extra income for the members. This is important in supporting our poor peasant organizations on the ground because it gives them a chance to get extra income and work collectively, have something collective so that they can practice collective work rather than individual work. Yes, so thank you. So the farmers say thank you to the Foundation for Philippine Progress. Next slide, please. So this partnership between Foundation for Philippine Progress and LCDE is so valuable, not only in terms of financial resources, but also in projecting issues and information sharing on the plight of our poor and vulnerable sector here in the Philippines, our homeland. Next slide, please. So what are the challenges we face? I'm speaking not only for us, but for our other Philippine partners, which the foundation also supports. So challenges are the lack of government response, persecution of communities and humanitarian workers, financial resources for emergency aid and recovery are so inadequate. So I would like to emphasize that there's a lot of persecution going on now. I'm sure many of you know about the anti-terror law. We are all affected because terrorism is defined in such a broad way. If the communities we serve are deemed terrorists by the military, we can also be terrorists as giving relief aid to those needy communities. So this is the challenge now that we all face. Next slide, please. So yes, in ending, we call to strengthen partnerships, to consolidate and expand our organizations here in the Philippines and abroad, and to be able to serve the largest majority of the poor and vulnerable. So again, I would like to convey in behalf of my organizations that first, we are open to hosting Philippine tours. We did that many times in the past, many years ago. We hosted groups from Europe, from the USA, from Japan, to be exposed to our communities and see where your funds are going, to the projects that we support, and see the conditions of our people. So I want you to know, the board of the Foundation for Philippine Progress, that anytime that the travel restrictions are lifted, we can support and we can host you. Second, we know that the Foundation for Philippine Progress has a clear-cut criteria and selection in choosing its partners and programs. So we can also assure you that we in CDRN and the latest and we in LCDE also have a clear-cut criteria in supporting our beneficiaries, in selection of our beneficiaries. Of course, we choose the poorest, the most hard-hit, and those far from government support and services, those that are neglected and have a huge gap. Sometimes the government doesn't even go there, not even during elections, because of the remoteness. It's difficult to reach. It's high conflict areas. There's much fighting and encounters between the NPA rebels and the government troops. And so it's a lot of sacrifice to reach there. But we do that because we know that that is where the aid is needed. So we can assure you of our integrity, our respect for transparency and accountability uh, for our partners. Why? Because we do the jobs ourselves. We don't give the funds or the help to other organizations, not the government, not even the church. We go there ourselves. How even if we have to walk 5 or 6 hours to make sure that every cent, that every centavo is accounted for and that it reaches really the target population. That's what we've been doing since 1988, the past 30 years. That's what we've been doing to assure our partners that we really go there. So that's why during Typhoon Yolanda, many foreign NGOs supported us because they know that LCDE really goes to the remote areas to make sure that our aid for documentation and to interview the survivors of the disaster. So once more, salamat Foundation for Philippine Progress. Thank you very much. And we are looking forward to many more decades of partnership and the support. And in ending, I would also like to quote, like Mr. Ronald Antonio, something that I always quote from Sister or Mother Teresa of India. So she said, "A life not lived in the service is not a life at all." So that's our motto here in the team of LCDE. That's why we try our best to live a life that matters. Salamat, Foundation for Philippine Progress. Looking forward. Mabuhay!
Wow. Salamat, Ate Minette. We draw inspiration from our people who work the ground in times of calamities, indeed. The daring courage, especially amidst a pandemic. Salamat ng marami to your cadre of volunteers. And from another perspective, however, inspiration is also drawn from the medium of the arts. And here we are fortunate to have an artist and a thespian. Lorna Velasco has been in the forefront of Tagalog vernacular theater here in the US and a force in indulging the young to the beauty of the Filipino culture and language. Everyone, our partner for progress, Miss Lorna Velasco.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Nandito po ako para to introduce a poem by E. San Juan Jr. He is a Filipino cultural critic, literary academic, and poet. His work span various disciplines from philosophy, poetry, ethnic and racial studies, comparative literature, and cultural studies. He was recently introduced to us by Roger Rigor in our intermediate Tagalog classes, where a season where a group of Filipino Americans meet to continue our understanding and practice of language and cultural preservation. E. San Juan Jr. has been described as a living icon in the works of deep Filipino culture and struggle. And this is his poem, Alingaw-ngaw. Alingaw-ngaw ni E. San Juan Jr. Payapang lugar, walang tili, bulahaw, hiyaw, kulog, dagundong, walang imik, tahimik, walang tinig, taghoy, halinghing, sigaw, saklolo, tahol, tugtog, palakpak, iyak, walang bigkas, atungal, palahaw, taguingoy, usap, ngalngal, tagulaylay, walang ingay, ungol, higinhing, himutok, irit, hibik, hagulhol, angil, payapa, walang ingay, walang hikbi, daldal, haloyhoy, lagaslas, alingaw-ngaw, saklolo. Walang huni, sipol, pagaspas, lawiswis, halakhak, agas-as, walang siyap, sutsut, bulong, alatiit, kuliling, kaluskos, paswit, tahimik, walang imik, walang kibo, talagang naumid. Piping lahat, ngunit bakit may kumakatok? Humihingi ng saklolo, ugong sa sulok, dumudulas, anasan, tumatahip, pumupulas, bumubulong, bulong. Buntong hininga sa butas ng bungo. Sst! Walang imik, tahimik.
So, this poem unleashes an array of how sound is described, and it reveals to us how supple, dynamic, and powerful the Filipino language is. And for me, how it landed is that it brought me to a place that has been completely muted. We're left with a deafening silence, and yet there's still reverberation somewhere deep. There's stirring, pleas for help, whisperings. And as it pertains to the work of the foundation, it pushes us to ask, do we listen to the echoes for support from our kababayans, or do we stay silent? That's why I'm so grateful and proud for the work of the foundation, and that it gives us an opportunity to act and be active and to give back to our kababayans in the Philippines.
Thank you, Lorna. Thank you so much. And as we begin to wrap up our presentation today, allow me to introduce to you the lead force behind the foundation, whose heart is definitely bigger than the world in how she works endlessly in the service of others. Our Executive Director, Rosella De Leon.
Good evening, everyone. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Magandang umaga sa mga nasa Pilipinas, kina Ate Minette, my parents, my mom and my dad. Good morning. A little more than 2 years ago, in October 2018, we launched the Foundation for Philippine Progress with a simple but bold vision, a full life for every Filipino. As a small organization just starting out, we sought to dream big while taking small and steady steps toward that vision. With a long requested medical and surgical mission awaiting us in the Philippines just 1 month after our founding, we made an appeal to our community. We made an appeal to you. We asked for at least 100 individuals and organizations to donate at least $100 to help us in our mission. In effect, becoming the founding donors of the Foundation for Philippine Progress. On the day of our founding and beyond, my heart overflowed with joy and humility as more than 100 people showered our new organization with support, with trust and hope that if we walk in step with one another, that we can truly collectively make an impact on the lives of our kababayans who are in vulnerable situations back home. Here in this slide, you see the 100 founding donors of the Foundation for Philippine Progress. What we may see as just a list for the 887 people in Eastern Visayas who received long-awaited surgeries and medical attention, for them, the collective efforts of those of you who are in this list means lives improved. It means being able to walk again. It means being able to provide for their children again. It means no longer staying up at night because of so much pain, because they have been waiting for these surgeries for more than 7 years at the time when we went to the Philippines. What may have been a simple act from us, a simple sacrifice, To them, it meant everything. So I want to thank you and take this time to recognize the 100 founding donors of the Foundation for Philippine Progress. I know that many of you who are in this call tonight are among the 100 founding donors. Mabuhay po kayong lahat. We have worked to establish projects and programs that support our vision and empower Filipinos everywhere to share our vision and keep the Philippines in the hearts. We have begun to build our pillars of healthcare, education, and basic human rights by responding to the needs of the people on the ground in the Philippines through several well-respected and highly effective partner organizations. We've undergone a serious and systematized vetting process with our partners in the Philippines to ensure that your donations go toward the intended recipients. Just like you, we despise the corrupt practices of local government units and organizations who pocket donations or utilize donations for their own personal gain. We in the Foundation for Philippine Progress dreamed to do differently. And now we work with organizations who are tried and tested in delivering support to communities in precarious situations in the Philippines. Strategically located in hazard-prone regions of the Philippines, we work with partners who are in the best position to provide context-specific, comprehensive, and timely data for proactive risk reduction initiatives and early actions. So on our second year anniversary, I am both proud and humbled by the significant impacts made by our small organization with big dreams through the generosity and partnership by people like you. Here in this slide, you'll see just a fraction of our community members who donated their time, their skills, their money to further our vision. A lot of our donors aren't even reflected in the slides for anonymity. So with typhoons, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and the COVID-19 pandemic taking a toll on the Philippines, it's clear that our homeland continues to get riddled with calamities and heartbreaks. But the support of our partners like you made a difference. Whether it's monetary donation, or working on our website, thanks Edwin, or sharing our posts on social media, or attending our events, those of you who are here tonight, these collective efforts have all contributed towards the fulfillment of our vision. We dedicate this event to you. We dedicate this 2-year anniversary celebration to you. We dedicate all of our accomplishments to you. For it is you all in our community who continue to touch the lives of our kababayans. We simply help facilitate the support on your behalf. So again, on behalf of the Foundation for Philippine Progress, thank you so much for your generous and continuous support. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Wow, thank you, Roselle. With that, we thank you all for joining us tonight, and we do have some giveaways to raffle. Here again is Project Coordinator I. Kalalo to announce raffle winners.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Yes, we have a few prizes to give away that I'll be pulling your names out of my lucky 49ers hat. Sorry, Seahawks fans, had to do it. So when I do draw your name, please message me privately. Just look for I Kalalo in the chat. I'll need your full name and your physical address and phone number. So our first prize is a $25 gift card to Fork and Spoon Food House in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. It's a restaurant and they have pretty tasty silogs. So here we go. Mary Lou Cabrera, are you still here?
Yes, Mary Lou, you won a $25 gift card. Just make sure you message me. All right, next we have another $25 gift card at the Mayan restaurant, also in Portland. Make sure you eat their crispy pata. I have Jay DeVera. Is Jay DeVera still here? I was gonna call on a little helper to help me out here too, but he left. All right, next prize. We have a $500 gift card to Grayson's Tattoo in Kent, Washington. It's pretty close to Seattle. Amazing tattoo artist named Kabug. So if you're dying to get the, I love mom tattoo on your shoulder, there you go. Oh, same as my name, Eileen Dudulao. Did I say your last name right? Eileen, are you still here? All right, next. We have a size large. It was the only hoodie they had available from Abacada Clothing. And the winner is, I have a Ray. They didn't put their last name on the chat, but Ray, you want a hoodie? And lastly, we have our Foundation for Philippine Progress hoodie. So you'll be the first one to rock it. Keep yourself warm up here if you're in the Pacific Northwest. And just let us know your size because we could have it customized to your size. So let me shake up the names a bit more. Okay. The winner is, forgive me if I pronounce your last name wrong, Christian Anisiete. Did I say that wrong? Right. You're the winner of our hoodie. And that's it for our raffle prizes. Thank you again for joining us tonight. And back to Kuya Roger.
Wow, thank you, So this is where we say until our next gathering again, when we celebrate our humble victories. And as we expand our giving and providing for the vulnerable and less fortunate, for those who are still in the fringes of hunger and surviving, we are always grateful for your generous support. Please continue to keep alive the spirit of pakikipagkapwa, our bayanihan spirit of giving. To all our attendees today, our esteemed board members, volunteers, partners, and donors, indeed, there is abundance when we come together. Thank you very much. And as we part, let me just have you this Carlos Bulusan quote. The human heart is bigger than the world. Marami pong salamat and good night.